I think that using money as a measure of someone's success can be a very disastrous measuring tool. Although in some instances and some scenarios, it can be a very helpful measuring tool, depending on what you want to do and what you want to get to. I'll give you some examples. If you set your goals to be one day to be able to afford to live in a tropical area and have a healthy lifestyle where maybe you work still, but at the same time you can afford to live a pretty healthy lifestyle and buy some things that you want, whether it's clothing or a car. That might be a somewhat decent measuring tool to use because it's a goal that you set out and it's something that you can strive to achieve. On the flip side, though, if your father is a billionaire and you set money as a measuring tool for success, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure because unless you make more than $1 billion, you are never truly a success based on your definition. And that's a horrific thing. If you measure success purely by money, it can be a horrendous a disaster for everyone. Oftentimes it's better to use money as a medium or sometimes as a result of your success, but oftentimes it's your true goals in life that really matter in success. And different people said different things, but some very healthful and healthy measures of success are things like how big of an impact and influence are you making on your local community? Or how big of an impact or influence are you having on a righteous and justice or a purposeful cause in your life, or something that you're really passionate about that will make the world a better place? Whether it's eliminating poverty or something smaller like preventing cancer, or maybe just something more microscopic. And again, the size of your goal isn't necessarily what matters. It may just come down to the impact you're making on the individual level. So it could be something like cheering up and revolutionizing what your local community and retirement center feels, and uplifting each individual and helping fix and uplift their lives. Something like that. And so another great measure for success is your impact on the world. Whether it's you're Will Smith and you're an actor and you want to make these huge movies that really bring central messages home that really uplift and motivate and inspire individuals to get where they want to get to. Or it can be something smaller. Maybe your goal is just to help and inspire the people in your local vicinity. That's a pretty good goal, honestly. And a great measure for success on top of all this is the impact and influence you're making on your friends and your family and your loved ones. Now, there's other definitions of success, like how much of your friends and family do you have that really like you, and how deep are those are those relationships, and they love you. And it's not about quantity, it's about quality of those relationships, and you're establishing these deep bonds with these people. And so perhaps when you die, at your funeral, they will be there and they will truly miss you when you're gone. Again, it gets a bit subjective here because there are successful people who also define success as how many people will be weeping at your funeral. And they point to figures like Gandhi and Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King Jr. And they want to make a huge impact on the world so that when they die, just like when Michael Jackson died, the whole world wept. And for me, I'm just like, why are you so focused on the quantity of people that weep about you? And the problem with going that large, on such a large scale, similar to if you focus on getting the most amount of views and subscribers on YouTube, your focus could warp, and ultimately the average fan or average person who even knows of your existence has a very shallow, deep understanding of you, and will only weep for like a few seconds and then go back to playing Candy Crush on their phone. Or maybe they'll tweet a little message about how they miss you or rest in peace on Instagram, and then that'll be it, which is kind of tragic in itself. So what's this whole deal about quantity, and why do you want to be remembered throughout time, even if you did a great cause and so forth? I mean, sure, psychology says that all of us, to some level, want some level of respect and appreciation, but on the same side, it's like the people who say that, they're also sort of more so coming from a side of ego, like, oh, I want to be this great person that's remembered forever because of how awesome I was. And that's just like, no, like the people who achieved that, their goal was never to do that. Their goal was to make an impact for the sake of making an impact, whether it was segregation or enslavement or whatever it was. That was their true purpose. And so I think it's a very interesting thing to think about. And there's this poem that I've mentioned before, where it just illustrates how pointless this whole ego thing is. And to summarize the poem, what happens at the end is the whole thing is describing this huge Egyptian sculpture that's now like crumbled in the ground, and there's sand covering it, and inscribed on the base of this huge monstrous sculpture is this phrase like, here is a king, whatever his name was. This is his erection, his sculpture, and no, not erection like that. Erection like sculpture. Stop thinking dirty. This is his sculpture, and no matter what, for 1,000 years hence, everyone will know how great this person was. And then there it was, like, crumbled in the sand, and no one really even cared about it, and some archaeologists had just stumbled across it. So it's kind of like that, 100, 200 years from now, to a certain point, you could just be this person that no one really cares about, or really, they don't really know much about. I mean, think about the average person nowadays. You ask them about the most influential characters of the last 100 years or so, whether it's Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, they probably don't know much about them. And is this to say you go completely not narcissistic, but hedonistic, and just do everything selfishly, take drugs, live for the current moment? No, because that's like sacrificing your own short-term gains for long-term gains. And on top of that, there's that whole thing of, well, it's still good to do great things. That doesn't mean go completely bad and do horrific things. So that's all I gotta say. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.